Welcome to Monkey and Frank. My name is Dope and my body is Dom. And today we have returning Rahat to the podcast. I am so excited. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Doe, I'm doing amazing. It feels wonderful to be back. I'm a listener of your podcast,
Oh,
and
thank
so
you.
I was looking at some repeat guests. So I'm glad that you decided to have me back.
Yo, it's a pleasure, man. So let's jump right into it. What have you been studying lately when it comes to spirituality? Like, what's the big keys?
Uh, oh wow, it's I can tell you my latest one
Go-
because otherwise it gets really hard because I'm just I become so enamored with the latest thing, like just put all my attention to it. So lately, though, I've been exploring this idea of that there's no doership. Like basically, we're not in control. It's basically the idea of no free will at all. Is I believe the word's called determinism. And so even when we have free will, it's for a very short period of time, and it's so minute that it really has like zero effect on the result. So basically, the idea is the concept is that there is no doer. Like we're totally at the mercy of like a higher force, and uh, and I don't know if that's what they mean when they say like self-realization or alignment or whatever. But this this is something I've been really thinking about because it does make things easier just from a art of living point of view where it's like you're totally at ease because whatever you can't feel guilty, you can't have any shame, you can't have anything because you're not doing it. So
Well,
does that make sense? It's
well, I've got a theory on that. I was just man, I was just thinking about that. Like before we came on, before we started recording, I was recording another podcast just from myself, just to get my thoughts in order. And but before I go into my theory, where did you get that knowledge from?
great question though. It's I've been so like I research a lot on like Hinduism, right?
Yes,
And they have this concept called the guru.
Guru.
They're 100% they're guru, like a guru. They totally believe in the teacher, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
like they believe that consciousness flows through the teacher. And so there have been like many past gurus, and some of their lectures are up on YouTube. So I was looking at a series of videos from this dude. His name is Ramesh Balsekar, and he's got like a bunch of these videos that I never stumbled across before. But that's the beauty of YouTube because people have all these clips saved in their collection, right? And the moment someone decides to upload them on YouTube, it becomes public domain, like it's free for all to see. And so I've been looking at his videos, and he really hammers this home. So it's just something it's not so much uh, looking at my own life or anything like that. It's just something I got from him. But I've been applying this logic lately. Like when I say lately, I mean the past 3 or 4 days. And it's extremely peaceful. This concept of like non-doership. So that's just
And in your awareness right now from his teaching,
mm,
who would be the guru that you're looking to? Do you have a
uh,
guru that you like? Because in order to practice what he's teaching,
mm,
wouldn't you have to have a guru to let go? Like, are you talking about like Krishna would be your guru? Like you give it all to,
uh, oh, I see what you mean. Hmm.
because, okay, so
So,
yeah, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say, and then I'll jump in into my theory.
yeah, no, you're right about that. You do need a guru. So I'm just thinking whether I should give you his answer or my answer
I
because
want
I
both.
haven't.
I want
Okay,
both.
let me start with him because that'll be easier for me because
Okay.
I haven't really thought it through. So someone actually asked him this thing, which you just asked me, and he said that it's not necessarily a guru, but it's more the cosmic law. like the source.
Mhm.
And if you say that one source is God, and then he or she separated themselves into like many different parts, and if you believe in that, then it's just like the cosmic play that's happening. And so when you give in, you're actually not giving into, you're not giving, you, you're not submitting to anything. You're just accepting the divinity of the will of like the one source. So that was his answers. That was his answer to the question you posed. Me personally, I think that would be nice, but I don't know how practical uh, that would be, because there is still some curiosity left, I find, if I take that approach. It's like, no, there has to be something in form, or even if it's formless, I still want to get closer to it. Do you know what I mean? It's like that there's still some of that curiosity left. And so a guru would be extremely helpful. Me
Well,
personally, I have many. I just don't have one. I think depending on your goal, you can have different ones. And at different times in my life, I've looked for inspiration to many folks, and they all help me, jointly. I'd say it's not just one person over the other. So
I'm
yeah.
excited. I am so excited. So I'm going to behave as a teacher and a student at the same time, because those thoughts that are going to come out are, it comes from me. It comes from what I've just experienced not too long ago. All right, so check this out. So, all right, let me get this straight. Give me 2 seconds just to center my thoughts.
Yeah, for sure.
So, free will. It starts with free will, as if we don't have free will. So let me attack this one first. I believe that in this life, in this body, the body that you're given, you will be presented with feelings, that you will either observe through your awareness as somebody that has awakened. So the knowledge that there's a duality to things, that the body
Hmm.
will die and that your awareness will continue, or you will experience it as the body, meaning you're confused. You still think that you are this body, and you're going to experience those feelings and probably create karma from these feelings. If I mean, maybe you're going to get lucky and you're going to, no, that's where I'm confused. Okay, no, the feelings
Hmm.
that you will observe, and the teachings that you will go through with, at the base level, if you are, just human, and you decide to, and you don't awaken, and then it's just gonna, whatever. The point is that the feelings that you're supposed to observe, you will observe, um, period. And that's the plan of God, and that's the plan. So now when it comes to your teaching of the guru, the thing that I've been theorizing about is that the body, the ego, I treat it as a guru lately, because I've been all into the aspect of honor and practice. The body was born in this reality, in, biology, physics, like everything that we know scientifically. And I truly believe that. Like
Hmm.
evolutionary biologists talk about, the need for sex in order to procreate. So, all of these needs that come up in the body, that often, as an awakened person, you try to control, or maybe uh, heal, because often our behavior is based on past traumas, right? So we know that the body accumulates trauma from birth. And as we live, because the body is constantly dying through the cells that we have in our body, or dying in the ideas that we let go and we become new people, blah, blah, blah. Like we are constantly dying. So as I turn to the ego, the body, the guru, I notice that my illusion, everything that is in front of me, every single thing that is physical, and even the dream world now, and
Hmm.
any type of medicine, plant medicine, any of state of mind, through the body, through the ego, because there's this duality, you need to do work with your ego. And as you're doing the work, if you are doing the work as an awakened person and you see everything as a teaching in front of you, everything as a guru, it be your body or the videos that you see on YouTube or the actual freaking gurus that live in India,
Mhm.
China, you name it. When you have that awakened state, then you really see, and like you say, that free will doesn't really exist. The only thing that exists is the teachings that are in front of you and the feelings that you're feeling. Now, if you see those feelings as an awakened person, then the feelings are going to be the same. You will be observing the same feeling as if you're not awakened, but they might be pleasurable. You might consider them an experience. You might consider them as
Mhm.
light as a feather because you understand and are aware of what is going on in your teachings through the guru. It be your body, God, you name it. Everything could be a guru, like the guy was saying.
Mhm.
On so just lately, and like I've been doing little practices, like I'm planning to, well, not planning, but like I want to abstinate from sex and any sexual thing that comes in my awareness. Like, for example, if I see a girl walking on the street and she's wearing beautiful leggings and I see her form as a sexual attractive thing, to say to the body, hey, like, I honor you. I honor where you're coming from. I honor maybe there's a trauma, or maybe it's how
Mhm.
I programmed you. Now let's undo this programming so that we can not get distracted by your needs. And because I want to do work at every moment. Every
Mhm.
moment that I'm alive, I want to do work with Mother, with God. Any of these little distractions that happen, it'd be a second here, like, oh, look at that beautiful lady, or look at that car. I keep getting caught by Mercedes. Like I say Mercedes, and right away it's like, oh, what if I had a Mercedes? I wonder how they drive. And like, you just pulled me away from God for 10 seconds. And then I come back to Madre, I take a deep breath and I'm like, and I go back to
Mhm.
presence. And presence is, for me, I go back to my feelings. How does my feeling feel? How I want to feel from head to toe, fingertips to shoulder. I want to feel all of my feelings, because as I'm living with those feelings, they're teaching me something. And when I see a beautiful Mercedes or I see a beautiful a girl, I can see
Mhm.
that I get distracted from my guru, like I get pulled away from my guru and my feelings, and I go into thoughts or I go into imagination. Now, there's nothing wrong to go with imagination, but are you
Mhm.
doing it with an awareness of your body as you're doing these practices of like vision or dream work or whatever you name? And so that's what's been coming into my
Mhm.
awareness lately. How do you, yeah, tell me a little bit
Yeah,
about, yeah.
it's you described it really well, very succinctly, like using the words that you did. I think that is the dilemma most folks face, but maybe they won't be as honest to that level to describe it. But I sincerely believe that that is what most people face. Now, the beauty of like non-doership is even when you're at that junction point where you see yourself becoming succumbed to these feelings, uh, it's the beauty of non-doership is that it's still not you who's doing that. So as long as you have this concept of like working to get better, you're gonna shun one thing and move towards another, and it might help you, it might give you the results, but it still isn't you. And I just like to remind myself that I don't like to give myself like credit. I try very hard, probably fail at it, but I try really, really hard to. Uh, I've been trying lately not to beat myself up over anything, but also not to give myself that little credit that feels good that I'm progressing. Because if I'm not there, then I then I don't have any guilt. You see, but then you can ask me, so why do you feel good if you're not guilty? And that's something I'll have to work on then. But it's like I'm not even here. Like that's state of mind I try to practice when I'm doing meditation. That is because if or it might even be a good exercise to do in your daily life, really, because it's very peaceful and it's just very practical too. But I and it's just the fact that there is no wrong, because you hear this a lot, like there is no right or wrong, but what does it really mean? I think you start to understand the meaning of what it really means to be at a point where there is no right or wrong when you remove the doership out of it. Then you become the feeling itself, like whatever you're feeling. And then if you're one with the feeling, then you really can't help it. Like something is just controlling you like a puppet, like it's pulling the strings. And so no matter how you try, I don't think you can help it at all. But to your point about making an effort to, like you said about like trying to be conscious at all times of, just being observant of like how you are and quickly reminding yourself that no, my goal is not the Mercedes of the girl. My goal is to know God. That's that will of course bring you closer to your goal. But think about it this way, like what happens, say you know God, and then what's next? So it never ends. So this kind of merges into another topic sometimes I think about is like immortality. Like we all think that there's an end goal, but if there is no end goal, then you're absolutely at the mercy of whatever's controlling you, and it's going to control you for a long, long time. So isn't it better just to remove doership out of it, like completely? Like I don't know, I'm just bouncing my
Well,
ideas, like I'm just talking them through,
yeah, well,
like
well,
with a
check
friend.
check
So
this out.
yeah.
So, what comes to mind when you were saying that is it is like the way I said it, like there is a flaw. So let's say I do see, let's say my body gets a reaction, whatever the reaction is. Okay,
Mm,
the body has the right to have this reaction because of the plan, God's plan. And whatever I need to see, I will see no matter what. Now, my job, as though, when you remove ownership fully, is I understand that in this life there are rules and there is
mm,
the concept of good and bad because it's being shown to me. But like you said, like if you really go back to spirituality, there's no good and bad, right? But the thing is that why are we seeing things as good and bad? So, for example, let's say you would be driving the car and in your life, God says that unfortunately you're going to hit somebody and you will kill them and you will feel guilty, period. You'll feel guilty as the body feels guilty. Now, that's
mm,
where the magic happens. And that's where spirituality happens is that I believe that the paradox here is that the ego, the body, wants to be spiritual. He wants it with all of his heart, but he cannot get there without you, the soul. The soul is the guide almost, and the body is the guru, the one that teaches the soul how to teach the body to get to spirituality. So there's the paradox, the never ending
mm,
paradox. But if you shut yourself off fully from the body, then you're not creating a symbiosis that is so important because we see it in life, right? Just the laws of synchrodestiny, synchronicity as well. Have you
mm,
ever seen the experiment of if you're in a room and you have 1,000 metronomes and you start them, at each one at a different millisecond, they're all going to be clicking at a different time, right? Leave them there for about an hour. And after an hour, all of them are going to be synchronized to a T. All of them are going to be clicking at the same rate. Now, how
oh,
does
cool.
that work, right? Because a metronome is programmed to be exactly 1 second. But in a world where chaos rules everything, there is an innate thing that emerges from life, from the universe, from physics, and
Yeah.
that's order. And where does that order come from, right? It's almost like an intention, but yet the moon settles
Mhm.
after a while around the earth, right? And it's
Yeah.
constant, the metronomes and blah, blah, blah. And same with like the need to order your house, the need to order your life, to create order, right? Just, even rules, like you're saying, rules don't exist, but yet the universe shows us that it does. And how do you merge both, right? And that's what I'm talking about. The idea that the body, the guru, and the soul has to work together in order to get out of this cycle of birth and death. If you if you don't awaken, or even if you do awaken and you don't get the memo that you're here to do work with your body, and you just
Mhm.
shun the body aside and you say, you know what, everything is going to be and will always be, and therefore no matter what I try, what I don't try, it doesn't matter because free will doesn't exist. And I say it does, because, and it does and it doesn't. That's the paradox, right? The feelings that you are going to feel, you will feel. The experience that you're going to experience, you will experience,
Yeah.
period. And that, but if you do the work, just the work on a minute by minute basis, second by second, with, and just by being awakened, like you start the work as soon as you understand that there's a duality thing that's happening here, that there is more to life than just this body. Oh, look at that, God exists, just that, starting there, and just with the idea like that God exists, and you do work in that realm, then you move on to more complex ideas and blah blah blah, just like right now the guru and the idea of free will. Yeah, there is no free
Yeah.
will, but
Mm.
yeah, but I think you know where I'm going with that.
Ye- Yeah. Uh, yeah, absolutely. And it's, I just agree to everything
Yeah,
you said. And it's more, uh, it's more to do with gratitude. I feel like
yeah.
isn't that so amazing that whatever the source
Gratitude,
is, or even if
honor.
there's a, yeah, it's like, that thing is given us the choice, or the appearance of the choice,
Yes.
even just the appearance of making a difference. uh but I mean, listen, so far we're building on the premise of non-doership. uh it's doesn't have to be that way. That's just one guru, his concept, right?
Yeah.
By the way, that guy also stresses, like, everything I'm telling you is not the truth, it's my concept.
Of
You're,
course.
because he's also applying it to himself, because he can't control whatever he comes up with. So he says this is the concept that he arrived at, basically. So we're also free to, like, come up with our concepts of, and then build upon that.
That
uh
I do feel
the,
that that's important what you're saying, because as you're going through the journey, I even noticed like once you learn something, and I think Lord Shiva talks about this, or even maybe Hanuman, I'm not sure which one of this, but once you learn something and you really master it, the universe is going to show you that you are wrong and that the paradox is true. And then you learn that paradox on the other side, and you're like, okay, I think I get it. And then you know it fully and you practice it, and then it's going to show you that no, that's, you're wrong. So even like non-doership, I feel like is a practice that needs, that I'm going through, like the act, like that we don't have free will, and
mm,
that's going to teach us until, oh, look at that, now the contrary is true, and I'll need to dabble in there. And then they're like, the paradox will always continue to make you grow. But because I do believe, like, in everything that I hear, just like you, and in Hinduism, they do say, like, if when you
mm.
die, just the example of when you die, if you're not there for your body as you die, you will create karma for the next life, and then you get a rebirth. But what if, like, this non free will thing is just a step in the evolution of you being able to not get a rebirth, it's just one part of your teaching, so that maybe one day you will wake up on the other side instead of waking up to this side, and then something else,
That's amazing. Yeah. uh yeah, absolutely. That would be something, if that is one's goal. Because I, I I keep going back to the goals, because I just feel we all are like have such different paths, and it's almost like we're our own worlds. Like we have like different universes existing within ourselves, because you can go really really deep. And I find that people often do, like even extroverts, like when they grow older, I sometimes they hit like what they call a midlife crisis, right, or whatever. Like they just hit a wall, and then I've noticed this in people. They become very introspective, and uh, but something I wanted to bring up was like going back to your early um, thoughts, your earlier thoughts. You were saying about like being distracted and stuff, and how to stay focused, and it made me think of like the four major like goals. I'm not sure if they're goals. I forget what the right term is, but so like in Hinduism, they have something called uh like the four major paths, where dharma is like the first one, which is just it's it's the universal law, but it's, if I, to be more precise, if I have to, like if I absolutely have to use some adjectives and stuff, I'll say more like morality and honor. It kind of goes with what you're saying about like knowing what's the right thing. And because like how do you know? Well, that part you don't question, because you just do, right? Like you don't know, like why did, like at that point in time, what told you that no, it's actually better for me not to worry about getting this new car, but rather focus on something higher, like more permanent. Because the car is gonna, if you leave a car in the same lot for like 200 years, it's gonna rust, and it's gonna disappear one day. But there's something more permanent. So whatever your calling is going to pull you towards that. But so one of the paths is artha, they call that. So that's like more the materialistic. It's like very practical. You do need to build resources. You need to be strong, and there's a good reason for doing all of these things. Because if you don't, guess what? You're going to be digested. You're going to be either colonized, and we've seen that in history many times over, where someone's going to capture you. So it's good to pursue artha. Maybe get a tank. Why stop at a Mercedes? Get it, like like protect yourself or do stuff. So that's one way.
But the
Yeah,
path,
go
is
ahead.
it to get to God?
No, so that's artha. So
Okay.
that's the material path.
Uh, Are,
Then
are,
there's
are they talking like those four paths? Is it to have a good civilization kind of thing, so that so that the Dharma people can achieve God, where the Artha people can protect the land and allow whatever? Like why are you
no, they're not passing any indictments like that. They're just they're just saying that these things happen in people's lives.
right? Okay.
That's all they're saying. And there's two more, by the way.
Yeah, I want to know
Uh
about them, but that was important. So
no,
basically,
yeah.
they're just saying that people can choose those paths, and it's not that those paths are good or wrong. It's just that's the human nature.
Right, right.
Right. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, continue.
That's that's right. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because yeah, I wasn't doing a good job like tying everything together. I was just
It's no, no, you
picking.
are. You are. It's
I
amazing.
was.
We're flowing together. Don't feel bad. We're doing that. You are a god. Continue, my friend.
You're funny, man. No, you're. I'm glad you did the podcast. It's such so cool. I love like the way you ask all the questions and stuff. But anyway, so Artha was like more materialistic. It's more about survival and just building wealth. And so Dharma is more about like say, for the lack of a better word, say morality. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just say that. And then there's Kama, which is like pleasure. And that's where the thing Kama Sutra, that's where that comes from. Like if you totally become hedonistic and absolutely pursue pleasure, that also happens. It tends to happen within people. Like that's a path too. And it doesn't necessarily have to be of the flesh. Like when even the will to like they say love is like the supreme emotion. But if you're that's Kama too. Like Kama is just like love. It can be love as well. So if you're just like totally into feeling good, if you're just about feelings, basically, just like being immersed in feelings, so that's Kama. And the last one is the most important one. That's the one. That's the one you. When you said like waking up in the other side, this is the one that made me think of that. The last one is moksha, which is liberation, where you escape the cycle. You get out of it. You don't have to worry about the well, you do have to worry about dharma. Some schools say that, but you don't have to worry about the other two. You don't have to worry about artha, like material stuff, or pleasure. You're sucked out of it when you get moksha, which is like a liberation state. But the thing about dharma is so cool. Like, even though it's just morality, which seems kind of boring, like it's just morality 101. Like, yeah, don't like be faithful and all that stuff. But there's something about dharma that controls all the others as well, because that is like that inner voice, whatever level you start with, and whatever programming you're given by the source. Like, you might grow up in a society that's evil to begin with. It could very well happen. Maybe you have bad parents or shitty parents or whatever. It could happen to you. But something will chip away at you where you're going to become more and more honorable, and you're going to live more and more with morality in your life. And whatever that force is, I really respect that thing, because I mean, wow, you even out of like evil concepts, a good can come out of it. And if you and once you become good, if you don't practice enough, if you're not disciplined enough, you can fall back to evil, because that has happened in Hindu mythology as well, whereas like even sages have fallen back. But yeah, so I just
So can
just
I tell
wanted
you?
to,
Yeah,
yeah,
no. So what I resonate from that is uh, I'm gonna do some pushback. Okay. So the
sure.
first so the first thing is that I believe, I mean, I have no idea about Hinduism, but as you were speaking, these four paths are necessary for God, for awakening in the other world, let's say. And even awakening in the other world, like the last path, it's basically okay. So let me explain. So the first path, which is honor, morality and everything like that, super useful when it comes to spirituality, and really to, as well, when it comes to physicality, when it comes to the body, to be able to honor your ego and everything that is in front of you, even like a war. If you honor the act, or even what war instills in you, like the feelings that it brings inside of you when you notice war, when you see that, when you see chaos and blood and blah blah blah. If you look at it through the lens of dharma, then that's a beautiful teaching. Now when it comes to kama, or kama, I guess you
Kama,
call
yeah.
kama. um, that one is uber necessary as well when it comes to
Mm.
spirituality, because and even the one so let's start with the other one, the one where you the second one is what again?
So
what's
you said
what Yeah, karma is
you,
the third
you
one. What's the second one? The one where
I
it's
think
wealth.
I think you left out Artha. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Artha.
artha. Okay, so boom, artha, super necessary. Now I just learned about artha today, and what it tells you is that in life you'll notice, if you create your own suffering through hard work, through discipline, for example, going to the gym, doing yoga, eating right, that to me falls under that. When you do these things, when you have discipline, you will create material, physical, spiritual wealth in so many levels, but especially physical. And you notice, if you're going to be a millionaire, a billionaire, or have a lot of possession, you need to dabble into that one, the material. Sorry, I keep forgetting the word. Which one is one?
Artha.
Artha. Yeah. You need to go into Artha, but notice that the more you play into Artha, the more you have discipline, the greater the Dharma is going to become. If you play into Artha, it will benefit and grow Dharma tremendously. Now, if you continue with Artha and you do your discipline of all of them, now it doesn't matter. Like even the discipline of doing podcasts, discipline of working out, all of these things will bring rewards because you are putting in work towards this life, towards this goal, towards this plan that God, the divine God has for you, right? Because we cannot deny what we are seeing in front of us, this illusion, is there for a reason. And therefore, to me, it's there to teach us. And from what I see, all the successful people have discipline. And it doesn't matter, even waking up at 4 is a discipline. Me taking cold shower is a discipline. Every moment that I dabble into Artha, it be spiritual or not, it will improve my life. Because often, as you're doing your workout, you can't think of God. What you're thinking of is freaking survival, the next step. Your heart is beating at 100 and fucking miles a minute, and all you want to do is accomplish your intention and your goal of doing this 40-minute workout like I plan, and doing the X, Y, and Z as best as I can. And I'm putting all of my Artha into it. And that will grow your life. Period, period, period. I've seen it over and over, and I'm practicing it. And you do as well in your life, I'm sure, left, right, and center. And now, if you bring in karma, the act of pleasure, now that to me resonates Hanuman, resonates Shiva, resonates the idea that with humor, with love, with feelings, you can again increase your artha and increase your dharma. Because in order for you to see this mountain as light as a feather, you need to bring humor into it. Without humor, you cannot. Hanuman cannot be as close to God as he is without humor, or else he would be insane and he would merge God like that. In order to be so close to God and to, because imagine, man, having Hanuman's love for God is so freaking great for us. As soon as we would die and we would just feel God just a little bit, we like, I want to be with you. I would merge with you right away. I wouldn't even question it. Like that's where near death experience trauma comes from. Like you don't want to come back, you want to be with that love, you want to be supported. But yet Hanuman says, no, 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 I'm going to go as close to God, and I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to merge, because I want to observe you. I want to observe you so much and honor you so much and be so close to you so much, because I love you so fucking much, but yet I'm not going to merge with you. And that's where humor really comes from. The idea that, or if humor wouldn't exist, we'd go insane. If love and the passion of making love and getting lost in that love and understanding that there's more to life is going to grow your dharma, is going to grow your artha. And then when you go into the next one, the fourth one, where you understand that there is a separation between soul and the body, and that there is a greater purpose. And when you play in that path, then it's going to grow all the other three paths, because now your honor means something. Now your love means something. And now your discipline of this physicality and wealth means something. You can do more with it. So to me, these four paths really helps, and I think is necessary for you to go into your whatever else you're going to teach me about Hinduism, but I have no idea. I'm just throwing out there my
No,
thought.
no, it's great though. So I love the way like you described that, and if it helps you, then it's great, because like some of these concepts are like so abstract too. So sometimes I feel like it's whatever the person takes, whatever they take out of it. If it helps them,
Yeah,
anything that helps people is good. That's just something I live by. Uh, but the only thing I would say is like Artha, because you kept mentioning discipline with Artha.
yeah,
Artha is not so much what you do, but what you value. So if you value like material stuff, like you know, like protection and something solid, like a table,
yeah.
or like actual physical wealth, how you obtain that, it's like, yeah, if, having a discipline is one of the best ways. But uh, that's where karma comes in too,
Yeah.
because if you've helped others in the past, it'll come back to you. And if you haven't as much, then you're gonna suffer. And they're pretty merciless about that, how karma, like from intergenerational, like how over different. So that could be like a good reason too, even though the one you said is good too, like about discipline.
But
But
also, like
oh
when it
yeah.
comes to Artha, there is a paradox there that is so important to learn. So, for example, if you if you are spiritual, I'm sure you're going to get to a dilemma like, oh my God, I've got so much, right? And then you start feeling karma. You start feeling bad for what you have. And let's say you, and I think the teaching there is as you
Mm,
accumulate wealth, like a lot of wealth, if you surrender to the frequency of abundance and you surrender to this wealth as not that you deserve it, but that it's there for a greater purpose, then it's going to make you accumulate even more wealth. And that's the crazy part. And then at one point, you have so much wealth. I mean, um,
if
yeah.
yeah, if that's what you value, yeah.
Well,
I these four things are more. It's about like what you prioritize most, not really like the how you get to it. So
no, I know, but like all
yeah,
four of them, in my awareness, are prioritized equally because even like the wealth of your body, right? To take care of your body and to have a good, strong, functioning body that would be able to defend and to protect you, and as well to take the steps. Like, let's say I do go to war one day and I use Artha, like the wealth of, my tank or whatever it may be, to destroy the enemy. That's like the Bhagavad Gita. Why am I doing it? For honor, for my dharma, for the other two paths. Um, and that is such a great teaching on its own. You know what I mean?
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why like some philosophers they put dharma over everything, even though you might at first sight you might think like moksha is the most lucrative one, like ooh, I want to totally escape this altogether, but no, it's actually dharma that holds everything together, even something like liberation,
Yeah.
like enlightenment, like moksha. So uh
Well,
yeah,
the only thing like as well that I'm pushing back a little bit is like it's hard to put something in front of something else. Like when you're here and now, and you're just here and now, whatever is presented to you, one might be dharma, and then in the next moment it might be artha, and the next moment it might, so there's no putting in front of another, like, or even like when it comes to intention, sometimes I find it confusing because as you're here and now, you'll know what to do. If you're going to be doing a meditation, then you know that you need to, whatever your practice is of setting an intention to maybe whatever, and then
yeah,
teachings are going to come in. But when you're here and now, it's real difficult to put something in front of another because the illusion is going to teach me what it's going to teach me here and now. And
yeah,
who am I to put any value on anything other than here and now
yeah,
and faith? Almost like faith is so important, but like
yeah.
I have the faith that whatever I'm learning, even if I don't even understand anything, it makes no sense and it's frustrating me, I'm meant to be frustrated. I'm meant to be confused. I'm meant to see this Mercedes and think to myself, you know, but as long as I'm really, really here and now, then that's the goal and you're doing a good job.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Something I find interesting is if you look at society, right? Like, let's forget about ourselves for a moment, just like general
Yes.
society, both Eastern and Western, like nowadays, 21st century. I think Artha and Kama is actually pretty heavily promoted. Like, if you
Yes.
like, people only respect money. I mean, it's the truth. If you like, that's how people.
Well, that's a big
Uh,
statement. I have to fight back just because you said like people only respect money. That sounds
most. I
horrible.
mean,
Oh, did you say most or
no, I didn't say most, but I meant most.
okay, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, yeah. Like, most. I feel like those are the values. Even when parents have conversations with their children, it's like
Yeah.
I've had, and maybe your experience is different, but from what I've seen, is it's always the same story. People want to pursue something else, their passion, whatever, but it's always a conversation about doing something more practical. Now, why would they say that? Doing something more practical, it has a monetary value tied to it because they want you to, earn a living and minimize all the risks as much as possible. So I think artha already is promoted by society, and same with kama, like pleasure and stuff. Like it's kind of, whether you date or whether you're in a culture that gets into marriage straight away, but both of them are kind of saying that, yeah, jump with both feet in. You're supposed to, like,
But even
like spend.
dharma, like if you look at the Asian culture, man, dharma, like when honor, you better honor your father. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. You know what I mean? Like I don't know about if they do beat their children, but I'm just saying dharma
Hmm,
is a big one. The one that I feel like
that's a
was
good
not
point. Yeah,
really promoted in what you're trying to say is that the last one. What's the last one's name?
the moksha, the liberation. Yeah.
Yeah, liberation. The one where you are not this body and that spirituality is something greater. But again, like we're seeing it from our lens, and I am 100% in your shoes as well. From my parents was all about like uh very physical, like you need to survive, and in order to survive you need money, in
Mm.
order to, you know, and to be successful you need to be charismatic, you need to honor and blah blah. And um yeah, so I agree 100% about the perception right now through the media, the news, is that money is the thing that's going to give you the most lib the most reward, I guess, or the most
Yeah,
karma, you know. Um,
that's
uh,
narrative.
yeah,
That's correct.
exactly. And to me it's almost like it's an illusion in the narrative. It's almost like it wants to trick us, and it wants us to have a conversation about it, and it wants us to make us realize like, no, 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 have faith. You have no
Mm.
idea how the outside world, what do you see in front of yourself? Oh, you, that's what you believe? Well, that's what I want you to look at, and that's what I want you to feel. And why do you want,
Interesting.
why do I want you to feel that way? Is so that you can learn about trust, maybe, or maybe you can learn about faith, or maybe you can change something in your life so that you grow towards spirituality. I love how the illusion, and I love when people talk like that about what I see, my perception of society, my perception of the media. That's awesome because it's teaching you something right here and now. What am I hearing? What are you hearing? And what is it? What are you feeling about it? You know, and tell me your perception of society. How do you feel about it? Does that make you, what feeling arises when you were telling me that?
Oh, no feeling actually. To be perfectly
Okay.
honest, I was just trying to make a truth statement to the best of my ability,
Of
because it's
course.
something I've noticed, except for maybe the tribal cultures, because they're kind of outside the economy.
Yes.
But even though, like, there's so many layers of society, maybe less so in the Western world, but in the, because I've lived both in the third world and the first world, so I know like all the different layers of society, and from top to bottom, trust me, everyone values money. You're not a respectable person unless you have that. It's and uh and it's cool. Like that's what we're playing in right now. It's like what you said. I'm not judging it. We're
Yeah.
we're playing in this field. Maybe in the last 5 centuries or so, or maybe the whole last 5,000 years, whatever. It's nothing in the scope of infinity. This is just the dot, right? Just 5,000 years. But this is, maybe we're just playing in this field of artha. But yeah, it's something to think about. It'd be kind of cool if like the culture totally changes to where all your whole respectability depends on if you can liberate yourself or not. And
Yeah.
I kind of see it already existing, like in swaths of India, like in the rural villages, like the fakir, they call it. They'll go from village to village and beg for food, and people actually respect that. They're like, okay, you're trying to achieve liberation. Yeah, we'll give you a plate of food. So then they'll eat that plate, but just to sustain themselves, but they won't ask for anything more, and that's how they survive. And but though you made a really good point about the dharma, because I was gonna lump dharma in with moksha, because I see kama and artha, which is pleasure, with all types of stuff, food, sex, whatever, and money being promoted. So artha and kama, those two, I feel like they're heavily promoted. And I was gonna say that moksha and dharma are not as much promoted, but you're right that dharma too is promoted in some of the Eastern cultures, because you're just supposed to accept everything, like totally be with the flow. But there are drawbacks to that too, and I just realized that I hadn't realized that before talking to you, that if you absolutely accept and be such a goody two shoes, then people can also take advantage of you, you know.
Yes.
And sometimes
Yes.
you have to kind of wake up and see, like, oh my god, what's happening here? Someone's just like trying to force their views on me or whatever. And so so
And
that was kind
that's
of interesting. So yeah.
and that's the paradox. Like one day it's going to teach you about, you know, great things. Like, man, to have these qualities under your belt is going to make you to grow a lot faster, a lot better. But then too much of these qualities make is going to make you take advantage. Like people are going to take advantage of you, and it's always a frequency, an oscillation. Like it goes from one to another to another. And as well, when it comes to right now, like in different parts of the world, sometimes some of them are going to be more into artha, some of them. But I can tell you, like even in your world, things might change on a dime. So I want to share with you a dream that I had the other day. I've been doing a lot of more dream work since I've been off of cannabis, and I've been
Mhm.
enjoying it a lot more. The understanding that I can do work even when I sleep, to heal the traumas of me and my ancestors. But one of the dreams that came up was the dream started where I was I was it was wartime. I had gotten to a farm and I was hiding in that farm, and I needed to hide in order for me to protect my daughter. I was with my daughter and she was an infant. She was like, I don't know, in the dream, like one or something like that, like where really an infant. I had to hold her head properly. And
Mhm.
kids came in the barn where I was hiding, like 10, 9, or whatever. And I knew that I needed to kill them in order for me to survive because it was wartime and these were the German and I was English. Like it was Germans for whatever reason, but it doesn't matter. It was just wartime. And as they came in one at a time in the barn, I had a knife and I shoved the knife under their mouth, like where the throat is, and I would go like kind of in the brain. And I did that like four of them in a row, and I just killed children and whatever. But I was doing it for survival, and I remember thinking, well, first, so I did that. So let's say then the dream jumped to I had taken over the farm. So I had killed all the children, all of the family members, and now the farm was mine. And it was me and my children and my child. And there was other people from my group that had just was there in the farm. And there was a lot of abundance. For once we could eat food. Like I remember opening pantries and look, they have this and they have that. And we just started eating a feast of, and we felt at peace for once. Like it felt like, oh my God, like we've been running for so long. We've been being chased down. Like it's like we were dogs. And finally, I had done something to give us a little bit of moment of peace so we could have a little bit of abundance. And then the dream moved on to seeing the Germans advancing in the field. And we're like, fuck, we need to go. Like we need to run to get the fuck out of here. They're gonna kill us, right? So we escaped from the roof, and I had my child, and I needed to, and I was on the second floor, and I need to go down. But in my dreams, I've always had this fear of heights, like as if I can't. And even in real life, I guess I've got a fear of heights. So I look down, it's like I can't get down from this roof. And then I look, and there was like two walls that were close to each other that I could like kind of shove myself in that wall and push myself in order to go down slowly. But as soon as I look down, I'm like, I got the same immense fear of heights.
Mhm.
But because I had my child and honor, like it was weird because the day before and the day before, and I've been dabbling in spirituality so much that spirituality, I guess, is in my awareness, and anyways, and it shows in my dream. So because I had honor, I managed to just do it. And now I was on the first roof, the first floor roof, and uh, and I needed to get down, and I managed to jump down on a shed or whatever, and I ran with my daughter into a small village. And I saw a house. I got into the house, a small cupboard, and I got into the cupboard, but the cupboard had kind of like an opening at the top, so I was not really hiding. but it was the best that I could do at the moment. The Germans were right there. Like, and there's another woman that comes in the house. I'm like, hey, one per house. Like, there's no more hiding. Please go somewhere else. And she turned around. She did as. So I managed to shove myself in the cupboard, but again, the hiding spot was horrible. And I had my child, and all I wanted was to be with her and to protect her. Like, it was not about me, it was about her. And then two guys walk into the house and they talk and they've got guns, but they're not dressed as Germans. They're dressed as like you and me, and they're talking English, and they're just talking, and they're talking loud. And I know that they're talking to me, even though they're not doing eye contact. And they're saying like, "Oh, it's all good, everything is safe," and blah blah blah. And I know they're talking to me, but yet it was weird. So then I got out of my hiding, place, and I get into the house and I'm like, hey, like the Germans are coming. Like, you guys seem really relaxed, kind of thing. It's not what I said, but that was what's happening. And they're like, hey, yeah, man, just sit down, relax, no problem. Like, just it's all good. And they were avoiding the word German. They were avoiding what I was asking them. Like, hey, they're coming. Like, aren't you guys scared? And they were like, don't worry, sit down, relax. And I was like, okay. So I sat down and I started relaxing. And then I'm like, hey, the Germans were right there. I need to go check. So I just go and I open the door. And as I look, Germans are everywhere in the village, and they're sitting down and they're just taking over the entire village. And there's tanks and everything, but nobody's shooting nobody. And there's nobody dying. There's no like fighting back. And I'm like, okay, this is fucking weird. And then I go back in and I realize that that's what like it's a plan of the German sent people like me in order to calm me down, to not get me to panic, so that I could assimilate with the German. The German just wanted to take over, right? To assimilate. And and then I was like, okay, so, and I got the feeling like, oh man, like the Germans are not as killers as I thought. And this is weird, and I understand what's happening. And I'm like, okay, am I going to be able to go back at the farm and take care of my child and grow a crop and everything? And the two guys inside the house, they're like, whoa, 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 like it doesn't work like that, just relax. Okay, you will have to join the war, you know but I'm like, I have a child, and I'm like, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. They just calm me down. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And then they leave, and two German officers come into the house, and they sit down and they ignore me, and they're just talking, and they give me food. And I get out of the house, and I realize that my daughter is going to be taken care of. I will have to go to war with them. I will have to assimilate, but I get to spend time with my daughter. I'm not going to die. There's not going to be any suffering. There's not going to be any chaos. And I'm just going to give kind of like my daughter to these women, and then I'm going to come back to her if I survive the war. And then I wake up from my dream, and I was like, huh. And first, what it was teaching me is that, because I've been distracted lately and watching kind of violence, TV shows. It'd be cartoons. There's a cartoon that is really violent called Invincible or whatever. And it made me think like, okay, I saw a lot of violence at the beginning of my dream where I killed those children. And I was thinking like, because I've been noticing that my dreams are they're a reflection of what I've lived that day. And so first there was violence, and then the other one, I had learned about honor and everything. But the dream caught me by surprise on, don't assume like about society. Like, the Germans were not there to do destruction as I saw them in my awareness. And again, like, it was very profound, um, what was happening there, and the idea that like honor and respect, and you never know what life is going to show you. And if you really are here and now, and it's weird, in my dreams I'm here and now. Like, I'm not panicking. Like, there's no, and it's really awesome how I'm here and now all the time. And silent mind too in my dream. And it was showing me like to surrender to what is, and you never know. Like, you just never know. I don't know.
That's an awesome dream. Like, I wanted to ask you, like, did you write it down? Because normally I have a
Yeah.
very hard time remembering like my
Yes.
dreams. Do
As
you
I
do you usually write down yours?
Yeah, one of my practices as I'm doing dream work right now, I've got a little pad and a pen, not a pen, but a pencil with lead, you know, so because you
Hmm.
never know if you're going to run out of ink because it's the middle of the night and it's dark in the room. And I just write on the paper as best as I can. I think but sometimes I write over words and it's fine. But yeah, I just write with my eyes closed on my piece of paper and then I turn the paper when I feel like it's full. Like I'm just writing big words and yeah, I do. That's one of my practice for the dream work. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Uh, yeah, with dreams, just like what you said, they're usually for me also like whatever is in the subconscious, it would just come out. So
But
for that reason, like it's always like I try to not keep anything as best as I can in my subconscious. So I don't want anything to bubble up like
well,
in my dreams, basically. Yeah.
that's the paradox, though. What if, like what you said, and that we're gonna bring it back around about that thing that you brought up about having no free will. What if what I experienced during the day, you know, when my body needs a break and I submit and I surrender to watching a TV show or whatever, it really brought me the idea that what if that's necessary for me to have that experience in my dream and for that dream to be so crazy, but I
Mhm.
know that it's because of what I've lived that day. So the paradox is what I've lived that day, was it all meant to be for me to have that specific dream and that dream work? And the idea that there is no answer, there is no yes or no, all I need is faith, keeps coming back to me and like just trust, have faith. And the
Hmm.
the more that I dabbled in that faith idea, it's been rewarding me. So to me, in my awareness and my journey, it's telling me that's the right answer. That don't worry too much about what you're experiencing during the day. Be here and now. Know the like the basic, you know, here and now, have faith. And of course, you know what the right thing is to do or the wrong thing. And even if you do the wrong thing, don't worry about it. Surrender, forgive yourself, love yourself. And I'm like, all right, cool. But try not to do the wrong thing. But if you do, it's okay. It's okay. You can do this dance for a million years, many, many lives. It's fine. Relax. There is no purpose to this. But there is, but there's
Yeah.
not, you know? And but the big but is that when I'm here and now and I surrender to all of the teachings now, not just this one or that one or all of them, even the
Hmm.
violence that I see, it you can do some work everywhere. Like that's the point. If you want to do work, if you want to practice this ego, this body, do it. If you want to practice spiritual, do it. But practice, talk to me, have faith, you know, and that's the mother kind of saying, like, talk to me. Even if you want to dabble in your self critic and your imagination and your creativity and you want to draw all day long, fine, fine. But talk to me, have faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's man, it's such an amazing topic. And I'll have to kind of write stuff down the next time we talk about dreams because like there's so many different ways we can go. But but I like the story in your dream where you're like basically you don't have much control as
No.
whatever the dream showed you, right? I felt like you couldn't make a choice. First you're put in that situation and then you're forced to go in that room and then you're kind of like those two guys came in. So it was just one thing. It was like watching the movie with absolutely no control
No
at
control.
all.
No.
Whereas in life, sometimes we think we have control, but maybe we also don't have a just
Correct.
like a dream. Like in life, it's absolutely zero control. But you keep saying like the you use the phrase doing work. I wonder like if I do work or not. I guess what I do is I try to like observe every little thing that's happening to me.
Then you are doing
And
work.
yeah,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
then
100%.
well, so,
100%.
yeah, yeah, I do that, and it's that's so trippy to think of that. Like I know some folks find it hard to believe, man, but honestly, like it's actually very easy to induce like uh altered states of consciousness while not taking anything at all, just by observing, because like your body does a lot of things, especially like if there's an anxiety or stuff, like you tend to, well, I'm gonna say I, because it's true for me, like you, you, I tend to like sometimes like spiral, like fear. Have been trying to defeat fear though. That's kind of my project with the whole observation thing. And so that's actually why I don't like dreams as much, because in a dream I don't have control. Even lucid dreaming, it's not something everyone can do. I've done it in the past, but using a different technique, it's just like cause sleep paralysis when you're really tired. Try not to itch any part of your body, just stay there and you can lucid dream. But I'm talking about like the normal dream. In normal dreams, I don't have any control at all. So I can't uh I'm observing, but uh, I'm not able to take that action that tells me to observe. So I'm observing all right. I'm observing everything, but I'm not consciously able to look at it and say, like, like what they say about every action is a like equal reaction. So I'm not able to do that reaction in the dream. Whereas I have that freedom when I'm in the wake state, like not dreaming in real life, where something like something will bubble up and it's like causing me fear or whatever. And then once I become the observer, then I find myself snapping out of it very quickly, and I've been like loving the results of that, and so I want to like maintain that, which is why I feel like I won't be able to maintain that if I dream. So
Wow.
I made it my goal to not dream actively, and I've been dreaming way less, and even the ones I do, I can't remember. There's something that I thought I would share with you about
Of course.
dreams.
Well,
Yeah.
here what's resonating with me. So the first thing is that like fear or any type of these feelings, especially fear, is that I feel like fear is, so let's say you have all the feelings of the world that is based out of love, right? And fear is one of them. And when you realize that fear, it only comes up for things that you love. Let's say you're afraid to die because you love this body. You're afraid to um, to have no money, so therefore you work hard. You're afraid to dream because you feel like you don't have control because you love control. You it's something that you love,
Mm,
order, let's say, or
yeah,
whatever, God.
I do.
um because
Yeah.
it's a synonym, right? Order and God kind of thing to me, or intention. So in that aspect is the where I see the a little bit of the flaw, not a flaw, because it's your journey, man. You need to go through. I've been through that, and you need to go through the idea of like kind of fighting fear. And the reason why I say that is that, let's say you have no control, right? Let's say you are a prisoner in the time of the World War II, and you're a Jew and you're in the concentration camp. If you listen to those people talk in interviews, there's a woman wrote a book about that. There's a man, there's a couple of people that actually have testimony that survived and had the ability to write a book and blah, blah. And what they say is that once you get to that level and you have nothing, like you have nothing, 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 nothing else, and you have no control, absolutely no control, the only thing you're left with is your primal self. You can't, whatever feelings shows up, that's it, that's all. Those are the feelings that are all encompassing. That is all you have, is your feelings, and you can't run away from that. So even like a dream, even like what you're doing with fighting fear or whatever it may be, that feeling of whatever, any feelings, if
Mm,
God really wants to, you're going to get to a point where you can't run away from that feeling, and you'll have no choice but to really look at it. And those people from those concentration camp, they said, like, you can tell the people that would die is the people that would not surrender to those feelings. There was an electric fence, and a lot of people go suicide. So they'd call them like the electric people or whatever, because they would run to the fence and they would know that after 2 minutes the heart would stop. It was like They saw it so many times that they knew
Oh wow.
the science behind it. So a person would choose that and just suffer for 2 minutes in order to die, to get away from the feelings of not having control, fear, like ultimate fucking fear of never knowing when your number is going to go up, and to die in the gas chamber, because those people would work in those gas chamber, like they would go get the bodies, they would burn, like some people were. So you were working towards your own death, and everybody knew that. Every Jew knew that they were working towards their own death. Either they would die because they would run out of food and they would die of starvation, of just lack of power, because they would work you day and night, or you would die running at the fence, or you would die whatever. And all of the survivors all had one thing in common, and that was faith. It was like the intention to, just an intention. Like this one woman, her dad, before she got separated and her dad got gassed, her dad says, "Hey, be with your sister, go get your sister, and just survive in order to tell this story. Just survive so that you can tell this story and protect your sister." And that's what she did. And one of the sisters died, I think, but there was another one where the older sister kept wanting to give up, and she's like, no, like she had a mission. That's what it is, an intention, a mission, whatever. But everybody that survived, especially that had the willpower to go on another day and to look and to observe, like to really observe, like to observe where the guards would stand, where the guard, and they kind of like learn strategies. Okay, how can I get out of this? Even though I know there's no fucking way I'm getting out of this and I'm gonna die and there's no hope. How they continue observing, they continue seeing and having their awareness onto the here and now, and one more step, fucking one more step, no matter how much fear you feel, like just one more step, one more step, one more. And it brings me to the point of like that, you know, what you need to observe, what you need to feel in this life is built on a shit ton of previous life where, let's say, you were an animal and you had no, all you had were your feelings. And like imagine being a deer, how fucking afraid you are at all time to have those
Yeah.
reflex to fucking just
Hey,
get out of the way,
hey,
right?
hey, Doe, can you
Yeah,
give me 30 seconds if
of
that's
course.
okay?
Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Let me pause. Yeah, no worries, my friend. All right. Is it okay if I continue? Did you have
Yeah,
any?
yeah.
All
No,
right.
no. You can continue.
No worries. So, in your previous life, there was many, many times where you didn't have a choice, but you got to experience all of the feelings: shame, fear, greed, you name it. And I believe, and that's where I want to tie it up to the practice, is that here and now, now that we have self awareness in this life, you know, where we do have kind of like a little bit of breathing room and kind of like the choice to either observe or be led by this body, when you get this self awareness and you're, that's when
Mm,
I feel like the work begins in order to experience the same feelings that you've experienced before, but you didn't have a choice back then. Now you have a choice. Are you gonna, you know, the choice of growing in these feelings
mm,
in for a greater purpose? But it's really like you are given the opportunity to practice at every moment. And right now your practice is, you're, as much as you're fighting fear, the paradox is going to make it so that in order to fight fear, you need to feel fear. You need to dabble and to think about fear, look at fear from all angles to say, how can I defeat this? Am I going to be able to defeat this? And maybe you will in
yeah.
this life defeat it. And then in another life, it's going to be the lesson of merging with it or using it in order to do something honorable. And same like that, I always go back to the Bhagavad Gita, you know, when, what's his name, when the man that has,
Arjuna?
yeah, when Arjun fought his brothers and sisters on the other side, there, I'm sure there was tons of fear. um and in my awareness, fear is a gas now. It's more like a, it's a tool, it's not to be denied. It's such a powerful emotion that it matters. It matters. You cannot be honorable without fear, or else you have no feeling. You're a psychopath. You know what I mean? In order for
Yeah,
you to be honorable, you need, and somebody that's super freaking honorable is, like I said, those Jews in the concentration camp that still gave half of their bread to somebody sitting beside them when they knew that they might not have bread for the next 4 days. That's,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. Uh, yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole reason I went into that tangent was to kind of say why I didn't prefer dreaming as much, because I feel like just living in this life, it gives me more of opportunity, like in the waking state, to face that fear. Where in the dream, it's like I'm doing everything compulsively, like I have very, very little control. And
Yeah.
I love staring down whatever is happening. Like it's actually gotten me very good results.
What?
And if all of this is just a lesson for something even greater, then so be it. That's even more amazing.
Of
Do you know what
course.
I mean?
But if
But
that is the goal of like learning at every moment, then don't you feel like you're missing 50% of the time? Because you could be learning as well in your dream.
uh, yeah, it could be. I'm not ruling it out. I actually don't know why I stopped dreaming. It's I used to have more dreams when I was a kid
Yeah.
than
Well, from what
yeah,
it sounded like you chose this. I
yeah, I
noticed,
chose. You're
yeah,
right.
I noticed
I
that,
chose it,
yeah,
and I'm enjoying it. This is the thing.
yeah,
It's actually
yeah,
coincided with my awakening, like my path,
of course.
because it's like uh, this is more exciting though. Like this waking state is just more. Everything is more like more colors. Like dream state, it's kind of hazy. Am I right? Is that a fair statement? It's
Not for
like
me. So,
not
Madre
okay.
and Peru has shown that the dream world is more powerful than any psychedelics, any plant medicine that you can ever take. And the
Mhm.
people that are masters of their dream do a lot more work. They always call it work, right? When you do any type of plant medicine, it be with the mushrooms. Sometimes those journeys are hard, but they say that you can do a lot more work in the dream state. So check this out. I want to share a few. I've been lucid dreaming. The idea of lucid dreaming, I've came into my awareness like, I don't know, 8 years ago, and I managed it now 4 times, 5 times. So listen to this. The first time I lucid dream, I knew that my practice to lucid dream is before going to bed, before dreaming, I bring in my awareness that, hey, I know I'll be dreaming tonight. And if I wake up from this dream, like the knowing that I might wake up, that I'm going to notice something that's going to be weird. And I'm going to wake up in my dreaming and I'm going to notice that I'm dreaming. So I bring that in my awareness that that is a possibility, period. And one that I will be dreaming because I did that thing that you're doing right now before that, where before lucid dreaming, I would tell myself before going to bed, I will not dream. I will have a beautiful, restful night and I will wake up refreshed. And oh and behold, that would happen. Like if you tell yourself that you don't want to remember your dreams, it's fine. No big deal. Like it's amazing how it gives you what you want as long as you bring the awareness and intention to it. It was almost like a practice of being here and now before I knew what awakening was and what here and now was, to tell you the truth. So, anyways, I wake up in that dream and I'm like, holy shit, I'm I'm lucid dreaming. What should I do? And I got all excited and I'm like, I want to fly. And as soon as I started to fly, again, in my dreams, I often get the feeling of falling or I'm afraid of heights. So I start to fly, but I get way too high. And even though I know I'm lucid dreaming, I start to fall because now I forgot, like I got caught in my own emotion and I wake up from fear. And I'm like, fuck, like I was lucid dreaming. God damn. And it was my first time and I was so excited. So I'm like, all right, so I know I can do it. And I don't remember what woke me up, like that was weird about it, but something like something was weird and I'm like, oh, I'm in a dream, holy fuck, I'm in a dream. And then I started to fly right away. So now the next time I lucid dream, I don't know like the timeline, but I remember I was kind of in a car and I was like, what is happening here? Like, this is weird. I was with my friends and nothing was making sense. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm in a dream. But now I knew that I needed to stay calm. And I remember I was in the car. I'm like, hey, I'm in a dream. And then I was really looking around. And I'm like, holy fuck, I'm in a dream. All right. I open the door of the car. I get out and I'm like, okay, what do I do? Chill, chill, just relax. You got this. I'm like, I'm just gonna fly over the streets. And just the idea of flying over the street, I started flying over people very low to the ground so that I wouldn't get scared. I'm like, okay, I'm flying. Now what should I do? And I end up in a mall. I'm like, and I notice that there's people everywhere. I'm like, hey, if this is a dream, that means that everybody's a figment of my imagination. The first girl that I see, like a beautiful girl, I go and I touch her breasts and nothing happens. Everybody's kind of still. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm in a dream. And then I go, there's another girl sitting with her boyfriend over there. I'm like, I'm going to go put my, again, I feel a lot of shame about this, but I'm going to go put my dick in her mouth and see what happened. And I do that, and I was weird because the height level was weird because she was sitting down, but somehow as she was sitting down, I managed to kind of, I don't know, it was just my dick was in her mouth. Her boyfriend gets up and I get scared. I wake up and I'm like, no. I'm like, so then the next time, that was fucked up. Then the next time I lucid dream, I'm with my wife in my dream and in a sand desert thing, and I wake up and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm in a dream again. Nice. And then I'm like, now I'm at with my wife, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? And somehow there was a car that I jumped like on. Anyways, it doesn't matter that part, but I go from here to there as if I'm down now in the valley instead of on top of a sand dune thing, and my wife's with me. And I looked at her and I was like, can you give me a blowjob? And she's like, yes, of course, it's a dream. And it goes, and like, again, she goes down and it starts feeling good. And I'm in a dream, like, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, and I had one wet dream when I was young, like one in my entire life. And in that wet dream, when I woke up, it's like almost like I had peed my bed. And that's what that was like, it's weird. Like my bed was all wet. And I'm like, this is that, like, I didn't know. So, anyways, I feel this great feeling down, and then my wife gets up from giving me a blowjob, and she's like, "Hey, if I make you come, you're gonna pee your bed." And I'm like, "Oh man, you're right." And I put that idea aside, like of the sexual pleasure, and I'm like, "All right, I guess." And I started to fly, and I got scared. I woke up, and I'm like, "God damn it!" So I two things like that I was disappointed there.
Mm.
One is that I wish I would have had a proper wet dream, I guess, which I've never. Anyways, and to like and to not care if I pee my pants, whatever, it would have felt great. I'm sure in the dream, right? I'm lucid dreaming. And two, I just got scared again from flying, so I was pissed off in a way. And then I didn't lucid dream for a long time. So now I get spiritual like a year ago from Peru. And oh, and by the way, when you smoke cannabis, you lose all of your REM sleep. So a lot of my life, I did not dream because I didn't have a choice. So yeah, that's why I didn't lucid dream for such a long time after that. It's because I was a regular cannabis smoker daily, and you lose all of your REM sleep, and that's just the way it is. But now that I've been sober for a month, I started to dream again, and I had another lucid dream again yesterday or the day before.
Oh.
Now I woke up in the dream. So it was like we were getting on a plane, but the plane was super tight, super small, and I kind of crawled over somebody. My dad was there, and it didn't make sense because I was going to Peru, I think, or somewhere, but the plane was way too small. And anyways, and I'm like, fuck that, I'm not sitting here. Like people are crawling over me. So I moved and I went and sat with my coworker, Andrew, in the plane. But now the plane looked like a movie theater. And I remember like sitting there, like, this is weird. Like, why would the plane look like this? And how is it going to fly? I don't even understand. Where's the cockpit? And I'm like, oh, I'm in a dream. All right, cool. And then right away, I went down into the theater and I went back into that same goddamn mentality of sexual pleasure. And I saw a beautiful girl again. I'm like, oh, I want to make love to you. And boom, she was naked. I'm like, you're so beautiful, like awesome. And then tried to kind of start the action, and it wasn't
Mhm.
working, and it was weird, and I couldn't get it. And then I just woke up from like the confusion of like not being able to perform that action. And I'm like, why the fuck do I keep going back to sexual pleasure? Like, I'm here to do work. I could have asked, because I've been thinking to myself, that was the second time actually that I lucid dream, but both time I went to sexual pleasure. And I'm like, I want to talk to mother. Like, I want to be in a dream and be like, okay, I'm in a dream. I want to have faith. Mother, what can I learn? What can I do? What can I do? Like, supposedly,
Hmm.
it's more powerful than a psychedelic. Like I could do so much freaking work and I'm there. Like I'm so fucking there. And I keep going back to sexuality. And then when I woke up from that, I'm like, that's it. I'm going celibate. Like I need to train this body to do the practice of this body in order to do. I want my body to not default to what I've thought it all of this life because I'm thinking biology or because I'm thinking, and even if it is, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm here and now. I want to practice my body to that because that's the one thing I realized too. Like the same with the dream of the war. When you are at your lowest and there's nothing else to you other than your feeling and fear, how are you going to behave? And I know right now that I'm not going to behave good. Like I remember a few times where I almost died. And when panic arises, all you feel is panic. It's hard to get out of that shit because you've trained, like it's, you didn't train your body to handle this type of panic. Like this, my life was so soft that how am I going to train it, right? Same with fear, same with anything. And now I don't like the work is that
Yeah.
the work is to look at these extreme feelings. It be in a psychedelic, it be in meditation, it be when you're doing breath work, and to surrender to it and to train your ego, your body, to have a different reaction of what your previous lives, your previous experience, all of your traumas accumulated in one body, and to do the work. And that means in the dream as well.
Yeah. No, I I agree with everything, and I'm just so happy that you have that excitement, you know, in your dream, like when you're flying about and stuff. But I I, I feel like that the sexual stuff like that came up because that was in your subconscious at the moment,
Mm,
and
it always
when
comes up. Like it's something that dominated my life for so long.
and
Like
it's still in your subconscious.
yeah, yeah.
I and it's like, man, when something's in your subconscious, like it can take a lot of work to completely get it out of the system. And that's another reason, like I feel like the dream is almost like a lower state of like the consciousness, because you have less control over that than you would have over this life. Like it kind of, because I love you so much, it kind of made me feel sad when you're saying that you want to like do the work with the mother and like Gaia or whatever you call it, that energy, but you want to do it in the dream world. I was thinking to myself, why can't do it and
I
do
want to
it also in this world as
I
much
want to
as you
do it
can,
at
you know?
every moment. I want to do it at every moment in
Mm.
this world and the other. This world, I'm doing so good. Like, but it's in this world, it's in this physical world that you can train the body. If you don't do it here, you can't do it anywhere else. So that's why this physical world is so important. Uh, it's so important. Like, I didn't realize how important this physicality is, like the fact that I'm in this human body, uh, not sleeping, not dreaming.
Yo, yeah.
Like this is profound because
No,
I can
that makes
only do the
sense.
work here and now. And that's why I was born. I cannot train the body any other way but to be in this 3D, 4D with time, because time doesn't exist on the other side, this 4D world, having some crazy feelings connection where I feel like I've got no control, but I do, but I don't, but I do, but I don't. And the paradox are so insane.
Yo, that really, that's like so much on the money. I can't, like, I was having this conversation with a friend like earlier, and she was kind of saying the same thing, that I was telling her that it's like why do we keep coming back? That the altered state feels so good. like the altered state of consciousness, and yet we keep choosing to come back in this like body, right? So
The
what's the
practice,
purpose?
the
And and and
practice.
and, and she was saying something very similar to what you're saying, that this is like the vehicle. This is the way to have any lesson at all. Like this is the
Yes,
starting point, like the physicality of it. And
yes,
that's where the lessons begin. And
yes.
so just still to be grateful, like I always am, but also to remind myself to be uh grateful, like not judge myself for coming back, because I know this is something we touched on earlier. Like why I think I also asked, maybe I forget, maybe I've asked the same question or not. Like why do we keep coming back? Like what's the reason? It's because we, whatever lesson, like we're not there yet basically, and I'm fine with that. Like it's, to me it's not an ego thing. Like I have a lot of beef with like new age people, because like they think they know everything. Like there's nothing to learn. But to me, it's just the opposite. Like I think there's everything to learn, and I'm just I'm very grateful to just be a part of this like existence that gives me this flesh and bones just to be here. Because the brain, even if I believe that the brain produces the consciousness, that I'm still grateful to have that gray matter, all that cell, all that sinew, nerves. I'm just grateful for the whole physicality aspect of it. And yeah, I'm just and to me, it's it's really an honor, to be given the chance to come into uh, the material, you know. But I'm thinking it through as I speak to you, because these things are really tricky. Like you can absolutely say what you want to say, but then you find the logic falling apart too at the same time, because it's also more enjoyable to be in the spirit. I'm gonna say that. Like, yeah, it's good to be grateful for your physical body, but it's more enjoyable to meditate on the spirit and not on the body, because that's where you could actually merge the boundaries and see yourself like one with everything, like with all the Eastern religions, especially Buddhism. Like that's what they harp on, like being one. So it's actually more enjoyable when you think of the spirit, but at the same time, there's something to be said about, I think it's very underrated, I'll say, in the mystical world or spiritual world. And you can understand why, because it's in the word itself, like spiritual. It deals with like the spirit. It's just not called biological, right? That'd be weird if that's the word they used. But what I'm saying is that it's not weird at all. It is here, this bundle of flesh, nerves, and sinew. It's here to teach us something. Uh,
Well,
yeah. So when you
can I
said
push
that, though,
back?
yeah, go ahead.
All right. So check this out. So when it comes to what you just said, the only reason why the spirit world feels more enjoyable right now is because of this human body. Because you think about it, when you do merge on the other side to the spiritual world, when you become is the I am, because the transition is going to be crazy. But once you're on the other side, there's no more, more doesn't exist. There's not more enjoyable or less. And when you are, you just are. The only reason why it feels more enjoyable right now is because of the human body, because you keep getting thrown back into this human body, and then you get to see the contrast of what is. And I would love to as well push back saying, when you do become one, like Buddhism say, the only reason that it is good or enjoyable is because you are one with the human body, not one the spiritual world. Because the spiritual world on the other side does not include the physical world, but the physical world here does include the spiritual world. The only time you can be one, as they so call it, with duality is in this world. When you're on the other side, you are one with God, you are one with spirit. And the work that I'm talking about in this world is like they say into karma when it comes to Hinduism. Your ancestors' life has created and built up karma that pushes you ahead, and you're always creating karma that pushes you ahead. But when you do awaken, you can clean and clear that karma through work, I call it work, discipline, but what the act of being awakened and being the observer, and the act as well to just continue the work, to grow, to understand that there is a greater purpose, and that you are the spear, you are the tip of the spear of all of the ancestors that are supporting you and pushing you forward. And those people that are behind you, pushing you forward, or even in front of you, because they are your teachers as well, everything is all around. So I'm just kind of painting a picture almost, that
Mhm.
they want you to heal them as well as you're healing yourself. So your work is not just for yourself, it's not just for your own, it's for everyone, for everything, for God. And the other thing that I got, like in an experience lately, is that the idea to have faith, right? The when you have faith, let's say with God, then nothing matters. But it does matter. And what matters is that you are a light source. We are going, and we're always going towards light. We don't encourage darkness. When we do, we transmute it. So when we go through and do the work, and we do a hard trip where we dabble in fear and we dabble in all of those feelings that would cause somebody that is not awakened to spiral down and go into depression or even suicide or whatever, that play in the darkness. But us as awakened people that are having these type of conversation and growing and blah blah blah, we're taking those negative, those black energies, and we're transmuting into love. Or even when we do to a conversation like that we have together, we are taking light and exponentially creating more light, right? But it's exponential. It's like 2 = 1,000,000. um, and as you're doing this type of work now with others, and they say that in Catholic, like or there's a saying, if you bring two, and then anyways, doesn't matter. The point is that we're doing work light for light. And when you have faith, and you can tell, like, okay, all I want is to create more light and to be closer to love and God and to grow. But at any point in time, God could just turn off the light if he wants. And we need to have faith that if ever he does turn off the light, that's okay. There is a purpose to ultimate darkness and never ending darkness. And maybe he's just tired, doesn't matter. You need to have faith that whatever choices he does is perfect. But my goal, my job is to convince God in a way to keep the light on by continuing this grow of love and light and surrender and faith in him, that, hey, God, continue the keep the lights on,
Yeah,
because I'm a being
yeah,
of light. And that's fine. Even if you do turn off the lights for everybody and all of the beings of lights go dark, that's fine too. But I have this job here to convince you to promote light and to continue transmuting light and to create more
yeah,
light.
yeah. It's so interesting you mentioned that because, like, in some of the schools, like in Hinduism, they say like that is the form of God. Like he's not an archetype; he has a physical form, and it begins with seeing the rays of light that like emanates out of him. And once you can see past that light, you can actually see like Krishna's like body. And I don't know, it's just very awe-inspiring, and it kind of made me think of that as you're describing that, and it just makes me so happy and so fearless every time I have that image in me. Though it's just so amazing. And light on or light off, man, what a blessing! Because even if it's just lights off, you're just merging back, and as long as the light is on, you have the opportunity to like be an astronaut in this life. Just like instead of going outside the space, you're going as deep as you can into your soul, man. It's just it really never ends, really never ends. And sometimes like anxiety comes up, but that's only because you're not choosing to face it at that moment. You have that like fear of running away, like your animalistic tendencies. They tend to come up. But I think I briefly shared with you, like recently I've kind of stared back at like whatever the irrational fear is. And believe me, man, it kind of goes away. If you do
Yeah,
that for like 2, 3 minutes,
yeah.
it dissipates completely. And that's like a superpower. And I don't know how many people I'll share this with, but I guess I guess I'll speak about this more when I meet new folks because it's man, but that
Well,
kind of
that's the
yeah.
proof that you are the observer. That's the proof that God wants you to observe. I've noticed that's the exact same thing. You can do that with your muscles. You can do that with your shame, with your fear. They want to be seen, and that's the duality. Like, you are not these feelings. This is the body, mother, God, or whatever, the guru that you are seeing in front of you, which is all of your feelings. They're here to be observed, and it doesn't matter if you get the teaching or not. Just the act of observing them is practice. And when you do that, you get the reward of sometimes a trauma that gets healed. Sometimes it just
Mm.
goes away. Sometimes, but when you honor those feelings like you did, they disappear. It's so weird. They want to be seen. They're like, thank you. We were just a feeling here. Like us, the feeling, you think that that feeling is negative or that it's uncomfortable, but really the more time you spend with me, the more you're going to realize that we're doing work together. All right, see you later, have a
That's
nice
right.
day. And you're like, oh, sorry man, I really gave you a bad rap, Mr. Fear or anxiety or you name it. Because for me, anxiety, when it does come up now, I'm excited, because if I close my eyes and I observe anxiety in its full form, it's a fucking bliss. Like, it takes over my shoulders and my neck, and I surrender to it, and it feels so freaking good. Now, I'm not there when it comes to anger, that's for sure, but I'm looking, that's where I'm at.
Interesting. Very
Yeah,
very interesting. Very different approaches like we have. You're becoming very comfortable with it. You're like you're managing it.
I'm excited
Whereas
because they're the
yeah.
teachers, they're the gurus. Every time that I get a feeling, I'm like,
Well,
oh, you're here for to teach me something awesome, I'm doing work.
interesting. Interesting. I I, I stare back at it. Once it goes away, I don't want to engage it with anymore because it doesn't do me any good. But I that is very interesting to
But
kind
that's
of fall in love with it and be with it.
but
Hmm.
the point is that, like,
Different approaches, yeah.
why would I bring in any feelings that are not showing themselves naturally? So that's something that I've noticed in thinkers and people that dabble in thinking in their minds, is that they have the ability to bring in the past, the future, especially the future, what you're talking about. Like, when, let's say you looked at fear and then it dissipated. Well, why would you bring it back? Like, it, th- then you're not being here and now. You're either dealing in the past where you want to relive what you just experienced, or you're dealing in the future of maybe that feeling is going to come back. But the point is that when you're here and now, who knows what's going to show up in your awareness? Like, I have no idea if at any moment I'm going to get the phone call that my mom passed away, or I'm going to get the phone call that I won $1 million somehow, or that I'm a fucking prince, or that I'm Harry Potter and I can do magic. Like, who fucking knows what's going to come up? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be here and now, and I'm going to not wait, but observe whatever comes up. And if this comes up, good. And if that comes up, awesome. But what am I doing? I'm here and now. What else are you doing? Nothing else. Just here and now. Oh, look at that. I feel like meditating. All right. Are you here and now? Sure, do it. And then whatever
That's
comes up,
right.
yeah,
I think that's the message that needs to be heard. Because I want to make a correction. I think I said like Buddhism was like being one with everything. I think that's like a misnomer because they have like so many different schools in there. Like even in Hinduism too, there's the concept of like total non-duality. Then there's like non-duality, but still separate forms. But my thing is, if we talk about that, then it doesn't really help like the people who are looking for help. Whereas the conversation we just had earlier, it's like super practical. It just tells you like to observe, and then you actually don't have to worry about like the metaphysical truths about form and not form and this and that. Like, what is the nature of reality? Like, I think about that too from time to time, but it's just maybe that's good too. Like, that's like a form of yoga as well.
yes.
Like where it's called knowledge yoga, but to be here and now and being the observer, this is an awesome practice as well. And I certainly am a testament to that. It's just, man, think about it. It's like what you said. If you're totally okay with any outcome, And if you know, like, if you have no guilt, because again, you're not the doer, it's just happening to you. Everything's happening to you, and you keep observing it, and you're absolutely fine with whatever outcome there is. Then to me, that would be kind of like eradicating fear in a way, to have it never come back. You could actually achieve that. But we're kind of we're kind of two dudes like speaking from an ivory tower. It seems like, because we have kind of dabbled in it just a little bit, but I sincerely encourage, like, like people to do this if they haven't thought about it. I think they'll be very surprised with the quick progression one can
Ah,
make.
100%.
Yeah.
And even the idea, like, as your awareness, like when you're here and now, let's say you do get a curiosity and you start thinking of X, Y, and Z. When you're doing that in the here and now, so look, you get a curiosity and you're like, hey, body, I see your curiosity. I'm going to spend some time here and now to think about that so that I can play in that frequency and see what comes up. Because your perspective, like your unique Rahat perspective, when you play in that frequency with your uniqueness, that's so freaking beautiful. And that's what God wants in a way. Like you, and that's being here and now. Like, and let's say you, for me, like you get the curiosity of writing your dreams down. And when you wake up, and I feel like the need to go and play in that frequency of that dream and kind of go in the past. Well, I'm doing it from a here and now point of view. And I'm like, hey, I'm here and now. I see that it wants me to, I can see that I'm curious about my dream and I want to ponder about it. And I'm doing it with honor and through the lens of awareness, through learning God or whatever. It doesn't matter. Everything that I've learned previously, my own perspective, I'm still being here and now. And that's the beauty of like curiosity is don't confuse like here and now as if a meditative state. If your body feels curious or wants to dabble in this frequency or that frequency or not dreaming for a while, and you're like, I honor you. Let's see what. Let sure, yeah, why not? And I'm gonna observe what happens. You're here and now, and that's one thing about you. You are here and now. Like I love how you I love the beauty and the chaos that often arises from like, and that's, I think Shiva is like that, is like, um, it wants to confuse you because that's the point. Like the confusion part of it is like,
Mm,
it is the point. So then,
yeah.
so that's so beautiful in its own. And I love everybody's journey. And the dance that we're doing right now is amazing because your point of view is as true as anything that I spout as true. And that's the paradox of life. Like everything you're going through is so freaking profound. And you taught me something about as well. I i was thinking that light was the other side, but you showed me that light is actually the body. And I'm like, of course. When you said that, it resonated so much because in this world, a particle is light. Like, the wave of light is either a wave or a particle, and everything is based out of light. Even a dark hole, a black hole is made out of light. Like every single atom in this world, is light. And for whatever reason, I thought light was the other side. And you're like, no, 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 no. The other side is the dark matter. The other side is what is. And yes, there is probably another type of light that is a paradox on its own. But I love that realization. So continue what you're doing, whatever you sticks to you, go with that and be here and now. And to anybody that's listening, like my journey is my journey, your journey is your journey, is and that's the point. And I love it, and I want to hear about your journey. That's why I'm doing this podcast. It's so
Yes,
cool.
sir. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with your sentiments 100%. And it's, man, like we could just literally pick one topic and talk about it, just that one thing for hours.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know, I shouldn't say we, because I don't want to like mischaracterize. Like I always have like a desire to like pick away at the most practical thing, because I want to help, though. That's I want to help others, you see.
I
I don't
love
want to
it.
make it about myself only. Like I'm a pretty boring guy, honestly. There's nothing in here. There's nothing. I feel like I can totally entertain myself or with others. It's just, even though I never had like a past life regression or anything like that, so that I haven't had that, but it, it, I can imagine so many situations like at the same time. So it kind of, so to just think about one's own life, it kind of is boring to me. That's why I like Lord Ram, because he was all about just chipping away at his duty, like doing whatever he has to do, and still understanding that everything's like this. It's like a spiritual battle that's going on. It's just, and you just have to work through it. So, so I mean, so that's what I, so that's what interests me, when having these conversations, these long conversations. It's just that I want to make it more about anyone who needs help, because I do see, like, I've never been a therapist. I've never, because, but I see a lot of people going to therapists, and even after that, they'll like have a laundry list of complaints, like blah blah blah. This is, but I mean, wouldn't it be cool if you could involve them, like make a circle, like bring them into a conversation? Then I don't know. I might be too optimistic, but I think that would actually help, like make a difference.
Well, I feel like
Yeah.
you're accomplishing it right now. Like when you have these type of conversation, it be on a podcast or anywhere, you are helping. It's amazing because, like I said, the work is done in mysterious ways in every ways, and even the practicality of it. Like we've talked about a lot of practical things tonight, and it feels really good. How do you feel about ending the podcast and really because there's a lot
Yeah.
to think and to digest with this conversation. But man, do I feel so grateful for you, like just as a human being. And it's thank you so much for everything that you've taught me today. Like it's amazing.
No, likewise though. I'm just grateful for you doing this podcast, and you've become such a pro at it. Honestly, like having, I'm a little envious.
Oh no, no,
I'm in marketing, but like I don't have those marketing skills, the ones you have. So
you flatter me,
yeah.
but it doesn't feel like that. Like, I love the shame that arises even as you say that. That's good. I'm looking at it straight on, and it's beautiful. And I've been working a lot about shame, and what a feeling! It's one of the most craziest feelings I have to admit.
Mm.
I think it's more crazy than fear. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes I'm like, would I rather feel fear or shame? That's a big one. I think I would choose fear. But yeah, I love you with all my heart, Monkey and Frank for life. And thank you so much for coming. And again, I want you back sooner rather than later. I love talking to you.
Let's do that. We'll just pick one topic next time and go at it rather than making it practical. How about that?
All right, love you, my friend.
All right. Peace out. Bye bye.
Bye.